Yesterday's deadly shooting was just the latest in a string of violence that's been committed by ICE agents since Donald Trump's immigration crackdown started, really since Donald Trump's second term started. The Trace, which is a group that investigates gun violence in America, found that since Trump's immigration crackdown began, there have been 15 shootings during ICE operations. They include the shootings of 3 people observing or documenting ICE raids, the shootings of 5 people driving away from traffic stops or evading an enforcement action, and the September 30th raid on a Chicago apartment building during which half-asleep tenants and their children were held at gunpoint. At least 4 people have been killed and 5 others have been injured. The Department of Homeland Security has consistently defended agents who have used force, saying that they have acted in self-defense. This all comes in a year where DHS and the Trump administration have gone to really embarrassing standards, embarrassing for them, for the requirements for employment at ICE in an effort to boost recruitment and eligibility at the agency. The moves include lowering the age from 21 to 18, offering as much as $50,000 as a signing bonus to become an ICE agent. But that hasn't done the trick. It hasn't brought in the experience needed. According to Politico, just 4 in 10 candidates at the agency had prior law enforcement experience. I want to bring in former DHS Chief of Staff during Donald Trump's first term, Miles Taylor. Michael Feinberg is still here. Now, Miles, the embarrassing part is that you should have to be more fit than a middle-aged mom, and this is the fitness requirement. You have to do 15 push-ups, 32 sit-ups, and run 1.5 miles in 14 minutes. That is not the best of the best, going after what they described as the, quote, worst of the worst.
Yeah, it's not SEAL Team 6, Nicole. I mean, I guess you and I are both in. We could be ICE officers today if we want. But there's a couple things here that are problematic. I mean, one certainly is the size. I mean, ICE is now the largest federal law enforcement agency in America. It's bigger than the Army of most countries, and it's growing very rapidly. You note that the qualifications have been lowered, the training has been lowered, and as a result, we've got an agency fielding undertrained, underqualified, ideologically motivated federal officers to roam American cities. And they are armed with extraordinary authority from the top. And that's the thing that I think we really have to focus here on with what happened in Minnesota and what's happening everywhere else. Go back to July when Donald Trump melted down because protesters were vandalizing ICE vehicles. And he said these were brand new cars and it was totally disrespectful. And after that, he said he was directing the Secretary of Homeland Security to give, quote, total authorization to use, quote, whatever means necessary to go after these protesters. Those are the words from the president. And in the wake of what happened yesterday, Nicole, to a lot of Americans, this looks like the president has given them the license to kill. And the way they are defending those officers and defending this incident and turning it on the victim and absurdly trying to characterize it as domestic terror shows that they are giving full license to do whatever means necessary these agents determine is appropriate in any circumstance. This is precisely the type of thing the founders feared, is a personal police force accountable only to the president.
You were the chief of staff at DHS in Donald Trump's first term for General John Kelly, who became a harsh critic of Donald Trump's, warning the country ahead of last year's election of just what Donald Trump would do if reelected, and agreeing with other top generals that he was, quote, autocratic. That's sort of the technical definitions of an autocrat. Kristi Noem is a different cat. She wrote in her own book about an act that most people view as sadistic and cruel, shooting her puppy in the face. What is it? How important is it, or is it important, the character of the person that leads this agency?
It's crucially important. I mean, let's start with the president there. What John Kelly warned about has only come into sharper relief. Today, asked by the New York Times if Donald Trump thinks there are limits to his powers, he responded, and I'm barely paraphrasing, he said, there's one thing, my own morality, my own mind, it's the only thing that can stop me. You cannot hear that and think anything other than John Kelly was right. That is the mind of a fascist. And who does a fascist hire to work under him? He hires like-minded people. Now, we saw an ICE officer fire shots yesterday that killed an American citizen. And today, instead of showing contrition or even caution, the White House and the Secretary of DHS continued to fire the gun. They continued to fire the gun by calling this domestic terrorism, and in doing so, creating a secondary public safety nightmare. I'll tell you this, Nicole, like Michael, I've responded to dozens of terrorist attacks. I've advised Donald Trump on the response to terrorist attacks. Hell, I co-wrote his counterterrorism strategy. And this was a woman in a Honda with stuffed animals in her glove box trying to leave a volatile scene. But now, by calling it domestic terrorism, Kristi Noem is creating the pretext for a further crackdown on the political opposition. That is scary, that is dystopian, and it tells you everything you need to know about the character of the people who are now running these agencies.